Good evening, and welcome to the council meeting of February 27th, 2023. The meeting is being live streamed on Facebook Live, and the most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website. The Town of Kentville acknowledges that February is African Heritage Month in Nova Scotia, and this year's theme is Seas of Struggle, African Peoples from Shore to Shore, recognizing the resilience, strength, and determination of people of African descent from the shores of Africa to the shores of Nova Scotia, with the Atlantic Ocean being the everlasting connection. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting package? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? I will remind members of council that we are in decision-making mode and we should be mindful of our decision-making wheel. We have committed to making balanced and respectful decisions and adhering to our code of conduct. This council, through policy and by motion, has adopted Robert's Rules as our rules of order, our parliamentary procedure. We will be voting by electronic means for all votes except administrative. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before the meeting commences? The chair notes that all members of council are present and we have quorum. We have been provided with a proposed agenda. Are there any further additions to the agenda? CAO, are there any changes?
I do not have any changes, Mayor Snow.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. This could tie in with 6A, but I'd like to have a discussion about council attendance to the FCM conference.
All right, we have a request to put attendance of members at the FCM conference. So it will go to council for a vote. All those in favor of adding FCM conference attendance to the agenda?
Sorry, can I just make a comment?
Okay, go ahead, Deputy.
So as Councillor Zabian just said, 6A 2023 conferences, could it
We can have discussion at that point, yes.
under the same, so that's what I'm asking, do
All
we
right.
need to have 6B?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Councillor Zabian, are you satisfied that we'll have a
that's
discussion
fine.
then?
Yep.
Okay. So 2023 conferences will include a discussion on the attendance by members of council. All right. Are there any other changes to our agenda? All right. And a seconder? Councillor York, thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. The minutes of the January 30th, 2023 council meeting have been distributed for review. If there are no changes, the minutes are approved as distributed. If there are changes, the recording secretary will annotate the minutes. Are there any changes to the set of minutes? None? All right, moving right along. Our first business is with regards to the respectful workplace. At the January 30th meeting of council, council took the decision to lay on the table the matter until the February meeting of council. A legal opinion was requested and has not been received for this meeting. However, it is in order that council take action on the matter. So the motion would be that council move to take from the table the respectful workplace special rule of order. Someone could move that, please. Deputy Mayor, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council take from the table the respectful workplace special rule of order. As this is an undebatable motion, the question is that council take from the table the respectful workplace special rule of order. All those in favor?
Just a minute, please.
Councillor,
Point of order here?
what, could you tell me what your point of order is?
Yes, my point of order is that this is not the proper procedure for laying on the table, that this would be postponement of a motion. When we laid on the table, laying on the table should not have a definite date as to when it comes back, whereas a postponement does. And so to do this you have to have a unanimous vote to be able to take this off the table. And I was the person who asked to have a legal opinion. And I feel like my ask is being ignored. And so I just want to make that very
Counselor,
clear.
can you stick to the point of order, please?
Yeah, that's part of the point of order, that my ask, when you laid it on the table, is being ignored.
Thank you.
And this should have been a postponement, not a laying on of the table. If it's a laying on of the table, it can be there for as long as we decide to keep it there.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Counselor. However, you will note from our meeting that we did set this date. So that means that we have reached the date, and we will go through the process. And if it is the wish of council to go ahead and put this back on the table or to postpone it, then we will do so.
Maybe that was the wrong process.
Thank you, Counselor. So the motion is that council take from the table the respectful workplace special rule of order.
So moved. Sorry, was it already moved? I apologize.
Yes, yes. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. So based on the actions within this chamber, we as a council committed to not only creating a safe and respectful workplace, but also not tolerating mean-spirited attacks on the CAO, council's only employee, members of staff, or citizens through action or tone. The commitment was made by council in camera at the December 12th, 2022 Committee of Council meeting. The matter was brought to council at the January 30th, 2023 council meeting and tabled until this meeting for a legal opinion. We did not receive the legal opinion as requested. However, part of the request at the time was with regards to whether or not there was a legal ability to remove someone from the chamber. And as provided in the package, the Municipal Government Act, the MGA, Part 1, Paragraph 21.5 provides that the person presiding at a meeting of council may cause to be expelled or excluded any person, including a council member, who is disrupting the proceedings of the council. Further to that, Robert's Rule 217 provides that special rules of order should be made by resolution, and therefore the motion is amended to read as a resolution. And 217 is also a motion that requires 2/3 vote. So the resolution would read, whereas the council commits to a respectful workplace for all staff, including the CAO, including all meetings, public meetings, and exchanges with staff. And whereas the council can disagree without being disagreeable, be it resolved that the council adopts special rule of order, respectful workplace. In the event that a member of council speaks or acts in a manner contrary to the code of conduct towards the CAO or member of staff, a point of order shall be immediately called. The member violating the code will be offered the opportunity to apologize for their action, and if not forthcoming, will be asked to leave the chamber and the meeting. Be it resolved that the minutes shall be annotated as a breach of conduct, disrespect, and name the member. If I could have someone move that, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. Whereas the council commits to a respectful workplace for all staff, including the CAO, including all meetings, public meetings, and exchanges with staff, and whereas the council can disagree without being disagreeable, be it resolved that the council adopts special rule of order, workplace in the event that a member of council speaks or acts in a manner contrary to the code of conduct towards the CAO or member of staff, a point of order shall immediately be called. The member violating the code will be offered the opportunity to apologize for their actions, and if not forthcoming, will be asked to leave the chamber and the meeting. Be it resolved that the minutes shall be annotated as a breach of conduct, disrespect, and name the member. Discussion, Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. I'm wondering here if we can make an amendment to this. I would like to amend it to include councillors as well as the mayor. So I'd like, this is our workplace when we're here doing business. And I would like this to read that all councillors, the mayor, the CAO, and staff are subject to this.
So that would be in the first, be it in the event that a member of council, okay, so it's in the whereas, that the council commits to a respectful workplace for all staff and members of council?
And, yeah, and the CAO.
So all staff and members of council,
And are you included in council?
yes, that's correct, I'm a member of
Okay,
council,
That's good, yeah,
including the CAO,
yes,
including all meetings, public meetings, and exchanges with staff.
yes. And this, I'd like to make a second amendment.
Okay, we have to vote on
On
that first
each
amendment
separately?
first.
Okay.
Okay, so you are moving that amendment?
Yeah.
And do we have a seconder? I'll second it. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All those in favor of the amendment to add members of council? All those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor, you had one more.
I did. I would like to take the power out of one person's hands to dismiss, and I would like it to be a majority vote by council to dismiss.
Thank you, Councillor, but the MGA provides that power to the chair.
But we can make our own, we're making our own special rule here. So
That's-
we're making a special one that the MGA would not be part of, and.
No, we can't do that. The MGA is the act, and
Yes.
therefore, we are subject to the act.
So then I have a problem with this, because,
Then you can vote against it.
yes, I can vote against it, but I would like to talk to my colleagues for a moment before we call a vote.
I'm sorry, Councillor, but.
You're going to ignore me.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Zabian.
Thank you. I just want to understand this so I have the language down. So we're in a meeting and somebody says something and one of you here decides to call a point of order. And with all due respect, I don't think half of us know what point of order is or the process is. I explained it to you 2 weeks ago. We've called point of order. Well, there you go.
Please, point of
Why
order.
though? But you
Point of
now
order.
you have to explain why. And then I have to explain
Okay,
why. and then
you no
have to
longer
vote.
have the floor.
Okay.
Point of order's been called. Deputy Mayor, can you explain what you've called a point of order on?
I've called a point of order because I, as a member of council, know and understand what a point of order is. So the fact that another member of council is saying that I don't understand what it is, I take offense to that, because I do understand what it is. I'm clear on what a point of order is.
That should be a
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Maxwell, you do not speak unless you are provided with the floor. That's also a point of order. Regardless of whether your light is on or not, if you do not have the floor, you do not speak, and you do not speak over other members of council while they have the floor. Thank you. Councillor Zabian, did you wish to continue?
I did, thank you. Yeah, so, that, just as here's a prime example, when you call a point of order, the person who calls it explains why, and then the person who they called it on would explain.
No, the person who.
Well, that's what I read, and
No.
that's what Robert says, so
No,
I don't know who we follow. And then you would rule and say
I'm
yes or
sorry.
no.
Councillor Zabian, the person who is being called the point of order against does not get to
So,
speak to the
so
matter.
you're, sorry, Mayor Snow, with all due respect, you're telling me that anybody in here can be the judge on what person's gonna, this would be the whole problem with this policy here, is that somebody in here can just say, hey, I don't like what you said, point of order, and then it's, that person's gonna leave? Because one person didn't like it, you're not even listening to the person, like in this example here, you're saying, well, the CAO, for example, may be affected, so someone else is gonna call out his emotion and then you're gonna leave the chamber? That doesn't even make any sense.
I think,
And I think I think I would like someone to pull up Robert's rules right now. I know we have enough copies here, and I know I'm not wrong. You're supposed to rule on the point of order. So and with all due respect, I've been called point of order by Deputy Mayor Savage probably 8 or 9 times in 2 years, and she's never explained why you've just shut my mic off, and we've either gone to recess, and it always looks like it's coming at me, but there's never an explanation. So I think, and I'm not saying you don't know what point of order is, but I don't think the process has ever been followed. You can't just call point of order and then shut the person down and off we go. You're supposed to explain why, and I'm supposed to talk, and then you as the chair would step in and say, you know what? This person's right, or that's the way I understood Robert, and I've read him.
Counselor Zabin, you are correct.
You just told me I was wrong a minute ago, though.
I told you you're wrong about something else, not
No,
about.
you just said I'm wrong about 60 seconds ago. And
Counselor-
I just want.
Counselor Zabin, you no longer have the floor. Thank you.
Point of order then. Point of order then.
Okay, Counselor, what is your point of order?
We have audience here and we're recorded. You just told me I was wrong. Now you're telling me thank you, I'm right. And now you're
No.
telling me I can't talk.
Counselor Zabin,
I'm done. I've made my point. I think everybody
All
knows
right.
my point. Thank you.
a point of order is called when the rules of the assembly are not being followed. The person, as you have rightly pointed out, who calls the point of order gets to say what the rule they think has been broken. From there, it's up to me as the chair to rule on it as being taken or not. And you are correct, I did not say to the deputy mayor, your point is taken. However, in my term, thank you, I expected that that was, and then handed the floor back to you to continue with what you were saying. At no time in Robert's rules does the person who's broken the point of order get to speak unless they make an appeal.
Yeah, I'm off, so nobody can hear me. I don't even think there's, and I'm not gonna say anything anymore because people are too offensive in here. Now you get too offended on a comment, but between point of privilege and point of order, there's a lot of confusion. I know from someone who's received them for the last 2.5 years, you've never said point taken. You've just shut my mic off.
This is the first time that I ever shut your mic off.
No, you've shut
And-
it off before, but you've never let me speak on it. You've never asked the person calling it why. You've just continued the meeting, and I've been blocked out. And I think we can go back to 50 meetings. It's not a secret. So I was sat here, and I thought, okay, it is what it is. Like, I'm off right now, but, and
You're
that's
also
fine.
out of order.
Well,
You
and
don't
I
have the floor.
I apologize for being out of order, but I don't know what other way to get the point out there that it's been wrong. And whoever is gonna sit here and come into a meeting and say, hey, I don't like what this person just said to somebody else, who's got the right to make that call though?
Counselor, we as a group have a right to make a call. We have a right to have a respectful workplace. And this rule is being put into place for a very specific reason, for something very specific that occurred. It was not something that had ever occurred prior to that, and this is not without thought that this is put forward.
Well, there is obviously not a lot of thought into it because our solicitor gave an opinion a month ago and we haven't heard back. So there's some issue there, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna just put the can out there. There's some problem here with it, and I don't know why it's, I'm done for a second. So
Thank
go
you.
to CAO.
CAO, did you wish to?
Yes, and I'd like to first, to council, staff have our own respectful workplace policy, just so that folks are clear. So what's happening here tonight, and I remind council that the decision of council was to come forward with a respectful workplace policy for council. That's why we're here. And so the debate of expanding or contracting or anything else, I just want to bring council back to the purpose of this is that council, for yourselves, we're looking to have your own respectful workplace policy. So just a reminder to council.
Thank you, CAO. Solicitor?
I think you were going to rule on something on my comments, not on that. My comments on the matter that's on the floor.
The matter that's on the floor, as in the amended,
The respectful workplace.
with the amendment as requested by Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah. So when you're done dealing with the issue that you're dealing with.
Okay, so the issue now is that the councillor wishes to make an amendment that removes the legal powers from the MGA.
You're putting words in my mouth. Absolutely not.
Councillor,
That's not what I
you're
said.
out of order.
Well, you're not gonna go on TV and tell people something that's.
Councillor, you're out of order.
Then put my mic on so I can clarify it.
Go ahead, Solicitor.
There's a couple of issues that arise from this. One is that, as the mayor has pointed out to council, the Municipal Government Act is clear that the person who's in the chair, the person presiding, so whoever that is, because it may be the mayor, it may be somebody else filling in for the mayor, can expel or exclude any person from a meeting if they're disrupting the proceedings. And I want to make it clear, you don't need a policy or any amendment to an existing policy on that, because that's in the Municipal Government Act. If you want to supplement that existing power, then you can do that. And my biggest concern with what's in front of council here tonight and what was in front of council at the last meeting is how that's occurring. And the reason you don't have something more fulsome than my comments here tonight in front of you is because it was hoped that there would be an opportunity to try to determine sort of the W5 on what it is that the intent is here, so that something might be able to be brought forward to accomplish the goals. Because as I said, you don't need anything to authorize the mayor to kick you out if you're disrupting the proceedings. And one of the challenges with what's before you is, under the Municipal Government Act, it's the mayor who makes the decision. It's the mayor who decides whether you're disrupting the proceedings. And I'm a little bit concerned that this proposed policy might be seen to limit the mayor's powers in this respect. And that shouldn't occur. But the key is that you're disrupting the proceedings, and the chair gets to decide that. So I encourage council to proceed carefully here, because I don't think the language is as clear as it could or should be. The other concern that I have with this is not a new one. It refers to a code of conduct, and that if you're breaching that code of conduct, that is, as I understand it, deemed to be a disruption of the proceedings. And I would encourage you to look to your code of conduct that you've heard my comments on in the past to determine whether or not this is meaningful to you when you read these two documents together. The third comment I'd make is that I believe you have a meeting policy, and this is either supplementing or perhaps amending that meeting policy. And although I hear what the mayor has to say about Robert's rules, if it's an amendment to the policy, it comes forward as a policy, and that's how it gets adopted by council. I had hoped not to be put in the position to make these comments about this document until there was an opportunity to review it. My last comment would be, and this is going to tie into something else on your agenda, is before you approve your minutes, please review them carefully and see what they say. The minutes you just approved don't say that this was coming off the table today. have a look at them. I understood, and that may be my mistake, and the great thing about Facebook is you can go back and see what it says, regardless of what your minutes say, but it's your minutes that matter. But I understood this was awaiting a legal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Solicitor. Based on the comments that our solicitor has provided, are we prepared to postpone further discussion on this until we have the recommendations of our solicitor in writing? Do I have a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, yes.
So we are postponing until we have something in writing from the solicitor advising us how to deal with this matter, whether it be by meeting policy or code of conduct policy.
If I
Solicitor?
might, I don't want to discourage discussion because if council wants to do something, like I say, to supplement the mayor's powers, that I would encourage council to have that discussion so that the CAO and I can have a discussion and try to see what, if anything, could accommodate those wishes.
So are we postponing or are we continuing the discussion on the matter that's on the floor right now?
So there's a motion right now to postpone.
Yes. Have you got it right? Yep. So we have a motion to postpone that has been moved and seconded, that council postpone this until we have information from the solicitor in writing as to how we dispense with this.
Are we gonna get the discussion if we postpone? Can we still discuss, or?
No.
No, okay. So we'll vote this down. Or I will.
Okay. Is that on your side?
Don't we already have a motion on?
No, this is a further motion, this is a supplementary motion to postpone. So we do have the motion, however, we have a motion to postpone now based on the legal information we've been provided with.
Well, sorry, somebody else's light is on before mine, but
We'll go through this motion first, and then,
my question though is around the discussion. Is there no discussion? And I don't have the floor, so I'm not gonna speak.
allow me to check. Jason had that problem as well. He had to go out and come back in. Yeah. No. Well, it's okay, we can go into discussion, because if we're postponing for a pending question, which is the information from our solicitor, although it was not in order when we had the floor, it is seconded, and it is debatable. Councillor Maxwell. On the matter of postponement.
On the matter of postponement, yes, we should postpone, but there's something that council needs to consider, and that is that there's a big difference between point of order and point of privilege.
Thank you, Councillor. However, that's not germane to the motion that's on the floor at this point in time, which is postponement of this.
Okey dokey.
Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Just, if I might ask a question to the solicitor on the last thing that he said about having discussion. Does the MGA supersede anything that we do if they've got their own rules? Does that supersede anything that we put in place?
You can't act contrary to the MGA.
So when you
what-
say supplemental, if the MGA says A and we add
mentioned about us having a meeting policy, and maybe that's where he was going with it, in it being, it being incorporated right into that policy. It's more of a comment.
Exactly. That
Thank
would be
you.
the intent.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there any further discussion on the matter of postponement of this motion until such time as we have further direction from the solicitor? There being no further discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is on council postponing further discussion. Got it. Further discussion on this matter until we have information forthcoming from the solicitor. Ready? Ready. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, our next item of business is with regards to the Kentville Business Community Agreement funding. At the November 30th meeting of council, council directed the CAO to provide an updated Town of Kentville, KBC, Kentville Business Community Agreement and funding model. The report was not provided to the January 30th council meeting pending legal review. At the February 13th CAC meeting, KBC provided an annual report and financial overview to council. CAO, could you provide council with an update on this matter, please?
Thank you, Mayor Snow. So there was some discussion with legal the end of last week, so it did not, it was not in the package, and we felt best not to try and jam it into the package. So what I would like to do, or what I request of council, that we bring this forward to the February 13th CAC. That way council has an opportunity to review, discuss, and then it can come to council at the March meeting of CAC and come forward then to the March council meeting.
Thank you very much, CAO. So based on your recommendation, the motion would be that council postpone the Town of Kentville Business Community Operational and Funding Agreement until the CAC meeting of March 13th, 2023. Someone can move. Deputy Mayor, thank you. Councillor Zabian for the second, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council postpone the Town of Kentville Business Community Operational and Funding Agreement until the CAC meeting of March 13th, 2023. Is there any discussion on this matter? There being no discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is that council postpone the Town of Kentville Business Community Operational and Funding Agreement until the CAC meeting of March 13th, 2023. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. All right, our next item of business is the regional sewer budget. The Regional Sewer Committee recently met to review and recommend the fiscal 2023-2024 operational budget for regional sewer. Committee member Deputy Mayor Savage, did you wish to speak to this matter to council?
Yes, thank you, Worship. So just a little bit of the background for Regional Sewer Committee is made up of 4 partners. It's Kings County, New Minas, PepsiCo, and Kentville. And so Kentville accounts for about 52% of the operating budget for the New Minas' plant base, based on the flow and volume. This year, the committee will be forming a working group to look at the allocation of new assets which support plant operations. And this year, the desludging will continue at Lagoon 1 and 2 with a new aeration equipment being added to the 2 lagoons. So essentially, as assets are added to regional sewer, there needs to be some determining around how to assign allocation of those assets. And that is all I have to say on regional sewer. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Therefore, the motion would be that council approve the Regional Sewer Committee recommended regional sewer operating budget of $1,448,100, with Kentville's share being $895,400.
So moved.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And second? Councillor Huntley, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the Regional Sewer Committee recommended regional sewer operating budget of $1,448,100, with Kentville's share being $895,400. Discussion on the matter? Councillor, or Deputy Mayor, I have a couple questions. So this is a 6.4% increase for the town from this year's budget. My other question is with regards to under non-operating, there's a transfer to depreciation reserves of $57,000 of, and also $170,000. And, oh, sorry, that's the consulting study. So we'll deal with the depreciation reserve first at $57,000. So the town of Kentville, do we not maintain our own reserves, or are we now putting money into someone else's reserve fund? So it's a transfer to depreciation reserves under non-operating?
I can, but you go ahead. Yep.
So there's no operational reserves, but capital, there's a number of large projects that those reserves are essentially going to be immediately used. So while it's set up as a reserve, if there was some reason that it got deferred, it would remain. So normally Kentville does not, in most cases, set up any kinds of reserves with third parties. But there is in fact some funding that is sitting in a reserve already within the sewer treatment plant. But also, in this case here, this is capital specific, that is not operational. There's no operational reserves with third parties.
All right, thank you. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Through the chair, and maybe I should know this, but I don't, how do they allot the percentages of ownership, Deputy Mayor, for the County of Kings, Kentville? Is it metered flow? Is it population and assessment? Is it?
It's on the usage, essentially. It's on the usage of.
So
the-
it's metered flow?
Yeah, so they would look at like our BODs and our TSSs, and so there's maximums for each of the partners. And so based on those maximums and minimums, we utilize approximately 52%. Unless you want to change something on that, CAO.
That's correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
welcome.
Is there any further discussion? All right, I do have a second question. Under that non-operating, there's also a consulting and study expense of $170,000, and then on the back page, there's projects with consulting studies as well for $50K. So I guess, It's also in the draft budget of 70K, so are these the same consulting studies, or is this different consulting studies? So it just seems there's a lot of consulting studies.
So there's two real pieces of work that are underway. The first piece is actually consultation with regards to the desludging and in the lagoon itself. So basically, there's a balance point between how much you take out and how much you leave in. So there's kind of an evaluation on that. But then there's a secondary piece to that in which how the sludge stays in the chamber. And so there's a maximization kind of piece there that works with that. The other part is that there's a number of things that need to be looked at with regards to the pumping stations themselves. So this has to do with infiltration of non-sewer. So, for example, if there's a lot of storm sewer tied in, if there's a lot of people have eavesdropping or whatnot tied in, there is some work to determine how much non-sewer is flowing through pumps RG 5, 6, and 7, which as future expansion would occur in the town, you're looking at ways to minimize those things into the system and replace that with sewer capacity.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions with regards to this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is that council approve the Regional Sewer Committee recommended regional sewer operating budget of $1,448,100, with Kentville's share being $895,400.
If I could, Mayor Snow.
Sir,
It's just, I think that it's 1,748,100, not 1,448. 1,748,100 is the total. The 895.4 is correct, but the
Okay.
bottom line is 1,748.1.
okay,
And just, instead of 1,448, it's 1,748.
1,748,100. Okay, did you get that for the motion? So that's 1,748,100.
Correct.
All right, voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, our next piece of business is a request for decision, and Councillor Maxwell, you have presented an RFD to council with regards to the use of consensus. Did you wish to speak to the matter?
Yes.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'm assuming that this has been read, and if there was any problems with it, I would have been told. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it. During the January 23rd CAC meeting, Councillor Gerard put forth an RFD concerning the establishment of a planning committee, and that takes place at the video 118 mark. Following his presentation, remarks by the mayor at 122.1 were as follows. So, CAO, by consensus, can we get you or get the process started on going out to citizens and checking the level of interest? And what I'm getting to here is a process. I believe that I have some concerns about the process. After these remarks by the mayor, 3 councillors spoke. Councillor Zabian and I expressed concerns about seeking interest for a planning committee at this time, while Deputy Mayor Savage asked 2 generic questions that did not indicate support one way or the other. Following this discussion by 3 members, in addition to the presenter of the RFD, at the 129.12 mark, the mayor says, so CAO, you've got an action on that and you are good with that. And there was a little bit more there. Following which both Councillor Zabian and I again spoke about our concerns, following which the meeting was sent to in-camera. During the January 23rd council meeting, the action taken at CAC was not put on the agenda for ratification. Councillor Zabian asked for it to be added to the agenda, which passed. At the video 27:35 mark, Councillor Zabian questions why the post seeking citizens for a planning committee was on social media. since council had not voted on it. The CAO responded at the 28:07 mark saying, in that meeting, there was discussion with regards to the formation of a committee, and as I understood, like other committees that were formed, the direction was, and well, no, it wasn't council. The direction was to put a post out. After this, there was a question by me, and that was it. At the February CAC meeting, Councillor Zabian again questioned why there was an ad on social media when council had not voted on it. At the 1:21:30 mark of the video, the CAO responds, well, councillor, in CAC a number of months ago, which was only 1 month actually, I guess it was that discussion around this committee, and basically I understood from the direction I had from council, was to get a list of names so that if council was heading down that road, we would be in a position to move forward. So that's why the ad is out there. I believe that there have been some errors in procedure which have taken place. The mayor informed me that she had turned to council and asked council for a consensus. Only the CAO was asked for if we could do it by consensus. For those who don't know, consensus decision-making is used for widespread levels of participation and agreement. The common elements that are said to be definitive of consensus decision-making include inclusivity, participatory, collaborative, which means the group constructs proposals with the input from all interested group members. Any individual authorship of a proposal is subsumed as the group modifies it to include the concerns of the group. What happened with our proposal totally ignored the concerns of 2 group members, and there was no effort made to modify. The other 2 elements are agreement seeking, where the group strives for full agreement, and cooperative, where the group is supposed to incorporate all concerns into the proposal. So not only were we not asked for consensus, but the process this type of decision-making strives for was not followed. The mayor also, I used the word erred, but maybe it was, just mistaken, when she determined that if a member didn't specifically say no during their discussion, then that was taken as you were agreeable to the proposal. As noted above, the use of consensus decision-making is one where modifications to proposals are part of the process. The CAO was clearly unsure of his direction, as I have stated. So for me, this entire process has been, I call it, into question. I think at this point, I'm probably correct in that contacts have probably been made by our citizens, people who want to be on this committee. And my intention at the time was that we wouldn't contact citizens until we had a planner, so a planner could have some input in the process. I assume that this has already gone out to citizens. Citizens have obviously already responded at this point. And so I think the only way to clear up the process issue is to have a motion that puts it back online and puts it back on track. And so I'm prepared to make a motion. But there's a couple of recommendations that I would like to make, and one is that council has a clear understanding of what consensus decision-making is and how it is used to determine decisions needs to be on an agenda before it is ever used again, because clearly there's some confusion around how to use consensus in a decision-making process. The second recommendation I'd like to make is that future video evidence should not be used to win a discussion if the actual time is unknown. I was referred to 1:37 mark in the video, and clearly it was well before the 1:37 mark. And I would also like to say that we all have this book of Robert's Rules of Order. I believe we were all given this copy. And so all members of council have this copy. So I would ask the mayor that when she quotes from Robert's rules, that do so from this book, because I could not follow what you were citing from Robert's rules. So I just have those three recommendations, and the motion that I would make is to give direction to the CAO to seek interest from citizens interested in sitting on a future planning committee, because we never did it by consensus and we didn't vote on it.
Thank you, Councillor. Prior to going to a motion, I will address your comments, since as the chair, my job is to preside over these meetings and look at how activity and actions are being taken. So again, thank you for your position. However, as the chair, I do speak to the Assembly, and in the context of direction, the CAO receives direction from council, the elected group, not the meeting. One of my duties as the chair is to expedite business of council. And you can look that one up on Robert's Rules 47.2, subpara 7. As such, for a matter that had no effect on the current budget or the governance, the chair called for a decision by consensus as we were instructed during our training last March, which is actually quite incorrect. Whereas the Robert's Rules term is actually unanimous consent, and that is at Rule number 4.58. My role is to ask for consent, and if no member calls, I object, the direction is provided. 460 provides that unanimous consent does not necessarily imply that every member present is in favor of the proposed action, simply that no member objects. Each member was provided with the opportunity to express their views on the decision. Direction to staff has not been ratified in this chamber. It has been provided at any meeting of council, including in closed sessions. Members of council received Robert's Rules training in March of 2022. The use of the incidental motions is encouraged and ensures that our decision-making is within the framework of our rules, bylaws, and policy. Further, it ensures that inquiries are made in a timely manner and not subject to second-guessing and review outside the chamber. Parliamentary inquiry, number 65, may be used by any member during the proceedings to obtain information on the current procedures. So in effect, you have made a parliamentary inquiry with this RFD. The point of order may be used by any member of council when a member thinks that the rules are being violated or that the chair has missed the violation. The question of privilege may be used with respect to heat, noise, or biological breaks. Personal privilege when a member feels that they have been impugned by another member. One of the great lessons for democracy to learn is that the majority to give to the minority the full and free opportunity to present their side of the case, and then for the minority, having failed to win a majority to their view, gracefully submit and to recognize that the action was as that of the entire organization, and cheerfully to assist in carrying out until they can secure its repeal. And that's actually what Mr. Robert said. The work of council is conducted in a democracy, and the decisions made in this room become the work of staff and decisions of council to support. Therefore, if the RFD is considered a parliamentary inquiry, the rule has been met and the decision made at the January 9th, 2023 CAC meeting stands. So there will be no further motion on this. Thank you. We're now moving on to our recommendations and
Excuse me,
reports.
Ms. Snow. Can I, yeah, just for a second. Yeah, that was interesting. I'm just confused why the request for a committee just didn't come into the normal way of doing it, where council voted on it. Because we create committees, that's in our policy, I can pull it up for you, and I know you know it. I guess that evening, speaking for myself, you said that nobody, I mean, I was against it, I spoke out two times that I wasn't for it. And you kind of surprised us at the very end when you reached over to CAO and said you have instructions. So I'm looking at the process here, I'm just wondering why we didn't vote on it as a council. That, to me, I don't have a problem with it. If we all unanimously say, you know what, let's create this committee, then we all carry it and we've made that decision. But that didn't happen, and I looked to the rest of you.
You're right, Councillor Zabian, it did not happen.
Right.
And the reason for that is that we were using consensus. However, that is the wrong terminology as we were trained in March of 2022. The correct terminology is consent. And when it is a routine business, which that was, it was just going out to the public. We were not forming a committee. We were going out to the committee, or out to the public, to see if there was interest. So for that reason, it seemed easy enough to go by consensus. No one objected. You did present the reasons that you thought we shouldn't go. All you had to say was, I object, and then a vote would have been held. That's what the rules state.
Thank you.
But there was no objection.
Thank you for that, and maybe it's just the language in the ad that's on social media, because it's a committee that is gonna be formed. It's not a call for interest, and I'm sure all of you have looked at it, because I emailed all of you. It says, are you interested in joining this committee? That, to me, is not a call for interest, which what you just said, that to me means, hey, you wanna be on this committee, and why would you wanna mislead people or encourage them to join something that may or may not happen? So that's just where my confusion is on this, and if you're saying now that you used the wrong word, you said you used the wrong, instead of consent, you said consensus?
No, yes, that's correct.
So you made a mistake that evening.
No, I used the word that we were taught at
But
our
it's
training.
incorrect.
It is correct. It is incorrect,
It is
yes.
incorrect, so the
Yes.
whole thing's incorrect, then I guess you could say nobody understood what you meant. Sorry, and I don't mean any
No,
disrespect,
it-
I'm just saying that kind of explains that the whole process
All right.
was.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Solicitor.
Thank you. This was the matter I referred to earlier. And I think that there's something, and the only reason I'm speaking is I think that there is an important piece here that hasn't been mentioned, and that is the approval of your minutes. Doesn't matter how you come to the decision, whether it's by consent, and consensus might be how you got to that consent, but it doesn't matter how you get there. What does matter is the decision. The decision must always be clear. I haven't gone back to look at what the minutes said, but the minutes need to be clear. And if they were, when you approved those minutes, that was your second opportunity to object to the decision and say, hold on now, that's not what I understood occurred. So I think it's important to always look at your minutes in that context. Ensure the decisions are clear. If they're not clear, raise it at that point in time at the very next meeting so that they can be clarified. Sometimes actions have already occurred and it's quite frankly too late, so it doesn't matter at that point. That doesn't mean that it can't be discussed, but it may mean there is nothing left to debate, okay? So I just encourage you, once again, to review your minutes carefully before you approve them at your following meeting. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, we have no recommendations or reports arising from the CAC meeting on February 13th or February 21st. Our council reports are presented monthly by each member of council detailing their committee and community work in support of the town of Kentville. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Last council meeting, January 30th, CAC, February 15th, or 13th. February 15th, I had a Kings Point to Point discussion regarding purchase of new vehicles. Kings Point to Point, as you can imagine, is having the same difficulty. Kentville Police, Kentville Public Works, everybody's having purchasing. And it's sort of on a bigger scale because their vehicles are much more modified than stuff we're looking for Kentville Police, et cetera. There was discussion over accidents, board expansion. They are looking to expand the board, and we approved the budget. February 21st, joint council meeting on the capital budget. And February 2023, Judge Kachalin rendered her decision in the conflict of interest lawsuit brought against me by another member of this council. I attached the entire decision in my report, and I encourage council and residents to read it. Judge Kachalin, in her decision, also ruled in my favor to award costs, and considering how concerned the member is regarding tax dollars being wasted on legal fees, I'm sure with this verdict, there will be a full reimbursement.
Counselor Gerard, just
Point of privilege.
Counselor Maxwell, yes?
The comments being made by the counselor, I find to be demeaning, inflammatory, insightful. That means they cause anger to take place. Triggering, which means looking for a form of retaliation. And divisive. They create division on this council. These comments are unnecessary and clearly demonstrate the councilor's distaste for another councilor. I emailed the entirety of council and the mayor on Saturday morning asking for these comments to be omitted, and I got absolutely no response from anyone. That indicates to me no one else around this circle found these comments out of order, meaning you condone them and you are good with them. The problem with this is you are acting as a tight-knit coalition and are not a bit concerned about Councillor Zabian or myself. The issues with this lies not with Councillor Zabian or myself, but with people who do not speak up to bullying behavior. You allow animosity to grow and even encourage it. It makes me ill. I have nothing I say, and I'm going to speak just for myself, nothing I say, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, gets recognized.
Counselor, I'm going to ask you to modify your comments.
All right, I will right now. I say nothing gets listened to, I'm ignored. Just tonight, the email that I sent on Saturday, the police commission, when I brought the bylaw forward, when wanting a legal opinion in my RFD. And so I would like to
Counselor,
inform
I'm
this
going to ask
council
you-
that because I'm being ignored and not listened to, I want the heritage bylaw to pass in this town. And I believe,
Counselor, that's
totally
not germane
believe,
to this
totally
conversation.
believe that if I am on that committee, it will fail. And so I resign from that committee.
Thank you, Counselor. You, I would like to call a break, please. If I could have a motion to have a break. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you. All those in favor?
Point of privilege?
No,
Or you're gonna come back to it? Just for clarity before we break.
we're calling a break.
I know, but.
We're calling a break.
I understand that.
We're calling a break. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion is carried. See you. Thank you, council, for that ability to take a recess. So we were back. We have a point of personal privilege called by the member, and I will ask the member that you succinctly state what the personal privilege is on the matter that is under discussion, which is the councillor's report. Councillor Maxwell?
I find the comments by the councillor to be demeaning, inflammatory, insightful, which means to cause anger, triggering, which means looking for a form of retaliation, and divisive. It creates division on this council. I find these comments unnecessary and clearly demonstrate the councillor's distaste for another councillor.
Thank you, councillor. With regards to the question of privilege, this is a statement of fact, and it is not taken as demeaning or inflammatory, as these are purely statements of fact, as we have seen numerous times with regards to reports coming forward. Councillor Gerard, did you have anything further to add to your report?
No, that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Huntley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. It was a fairly quiet month. February 9th, there was an invitation to the African Heritage Month proclamation event. That event replaced the normal diversity meeting. It was a wonderful evening, and one of the nicest things that I really took away from that is, I mean, there was so much to take away, but the amount of youth that was involved in that evening was absolutely spectacular, and they did a wonderful job in the planning. The Valley Wren LOC, we reviewed the Wren's activity report, the Board of Directors chair update, and there was an in-camera session. The physician recruitment and retention, it was just a quarter-one board meeting update. It wasn't very long, and they have a lot of planning in the works, and that should come about in quarter two. And the CAC special meeting, which was discuss the capital budget. I took part in 5 of the code of conduct consultation groups. There was 4 online and 1 in person to be able to get a better perspective of different people's, you know, and what they thought. And I heard probably about from 40 people. So it was really good to hear the discussion. And that's it for the month. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell?
Thank you. I've listed all my committee meetings and attendance there. The inclusion and accessibility was canceled for that period and will be rescheduled. The Heritage Committee was rescheduled due to an unsatisfactory date, or hard time trying to find a date for everybody. That'll be my last report on that committee. Supplemental CAC. We looked at the budget there. I went to the retirement celebration for Deb Kroll, our finance director, and I wanted to give staff a big shout out for putting together this wonderful celebration for retired financial director Kroll. Nice to see her family, Town of Kemptville staff, present and former councillors present. Also a shout out to former Town of Kemptville CAO Mark Phillips, who also attended and stayed to the very end. Thanks to everybody for that. Annapolis Valley Trails Coalition, 2 summer students have been applied for through grants. The Trail Coalition is also applying to Trans-Canada Trail for a grant to assist with trail maintenance. The cost of maintenance, as with everything else, has become extremely high, and the coalition are looking at what is feasible and sustainable for the coalition. The old model that we've been using will not work anymore. We discussed the work plan for the upcoming fiscal year. Craig Langell will be sent the maintenance plan once it's finalized. Amenities and washrooms, this will be in the planning and researching process for this year. And I would like to say that I'm highly upset that what I find to be demeaning is being
Counselor.
ignored. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor,
Yes.
your report.
Oh, so, yes, sorry. Yes. So February the 2nd was Regional Sewer Committee, where we had a briefing on the allocation of Engineering and Public Work Operations Center relating to the regional sewer proposed operating budget. And that main area of discussion was around the support services, but we've already motioned on that tonight, and we've accepted the budget. February the 8th was Investment Advisory Committee. The portfolio stands at 13.5 million, just north of 13.5. The year-to-date return, nice to see that improving. It's at 3.42% versus the balanced income CAD of 4.38. We're expecting to withdraw, and I'm looking to the CAO, I think it's 430,000 ending March 31st, 2023, as per usual. We're staying on course with our investment policy statement, however, are not diving into equities quite yet. February the 5th was KBC, where we had an update from all committees, treasurer facade update, promotions events, discussion around upcoming, there was discussion around the upcoming new agreement, the funding agreement, particulars around what is being proposed, and we had that tabled this evening as it's still under review with our solicitor. KBC did their annual presentation at the last council meeting, and I think we can all agree that excellent work is being done with that group. February the 16th was another regional sewer committee, and we had continued discussions on the proposed operating budget. February the 2nd, I attended a lunch with the Liberal Caucus. There were discussions around challenges and opportunities in the Kings County municipality. Representatives from the county and all towns were present. February the 21st were capital budget discussions. January the 31st was the retirement party for Deborah Kroll, and the event, I said, was tastefully done by staff. Congratulations to Deb, well done on 35 years. February the 1st, I had a meeting at Half Acre with Richard Galpin. February the 9th, African Heritage Month, I attended a proclamation event at the County of Kings, and Councillor Huntley reported on that as well, and it was a wonderful, wonderful evening, and it was nice to see the participation from all the youth. February the 11th, I attended the Lions Breakfast in Kentville. February the 20th, I attended the Heritage Center Heritage Day event, which was featuring Laura Churchill Duke. If folks don't have her books yet, you should have them because they're amazing. And February the 22nd was a Code of Conduct workshop. Mayor Snow to the CEO. CEO, did you want me to do a brief report on Remo now at this juncture?
Probably appropriate, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll just do a brief report on the Kings Region Remo EM Advisory Committee meeting, which was held on January the 16th, 2023. Just a few items to touch on. There was the appointment of the chair and the deputy chair. I was appointed back to the chair, and Councillor Jody McKay from Wolfville is the deputy chair. We had a presentation regarding Canadian Red Cross and emergency shelters. There was Kings Remo, they talked about their annual work plan as it relates to Remo organization, legislation and policies, public health, regional MOUs, public awareness. There was an update, a public health update from World Health Organization. We're now into our 4th year of the pandemic, and we just talked a little bit about that, vaccines and treatments. For the most part in the last year, COVID-19 was on the decline. There was an update given on the 2022 hurricane season. We had an update on the amateur radio group equipment installation. I'm going to speak to this one just a little bit. The Vulnerable Persons Registry. Kings Remo conducted a number of CBC interviews in regard to the Kings County Vulnerable Person Registry, and the program has grown in recognition not only in Kings County but across the province. Kings Remo presenting background information on the VPR program to each municipal accessibility advisory committee, and that's going to be forthcoming. It's a very, very important registry, and certainly the more that we can showcase this, the more people will realize that it's there and they can register themselves. It's important that vulnerable persons are looked after in times of need when we're having these potential catastrophic events. I think that is about it on Remo, and that is my report. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Councillor York.
Thank you. Same meetings as everyone else as far as CAC and council and budget. We had a regional rec facility meeting with the communication teams from all of the municipal units to discuss where we're at in phase 1.5. There will be a meeting that comes as a joint council meeting at some, I'm not sure that the date has been finalized, but it will be coming if it's not already scheduled. There was a Board of Police Commissioners meeting just this past Friday. It was a little bit later in the month than typical, just to accommodate for some scheduling, where we were discussing strategic planning moving forward, as well as community engagement and how those two will work together, and also discussing symbols on police uniforms and capital budget process, and the budget proposal. Good heavens. Also attended Director Kroll's retirement celebration. 35 years is a long career, and it's certainly a long career when in one establishment, and we certainly thank her for her foresight and her ability to run that department as effectively as she did for so long. On February 1st, I had a couple of meetings with some people in the area to talk about recreation. I had the opportunity to attend the Liberal Caucus lunch with the Honourable Zach Churchill to discuss municipal concerns with the provincial Liberal Party leadership. Had a meeting with the Chief of Police before our Police Commission meeting, just to better acquaint myself with the Kemptville Police Service and their working policies, and how the board will work with those as well. I attended the African Heritage Month proclamation event at the County of Kings. It was a spectacular event, and made some interesting connections for the schools, in particular the high school, so I'm encouraged to see some of those discussions happening. The Fire and Ice Weekend that was held with KBC and the Rec Department and the Community Economic Coordinator. I know the amount of work that goes into events like that, and I know how much work goes into it, whether you know it's going to happen or not. So I was gutted to see that some of the events were canceled due to weather or the lack thereof. But I do appreciate the amount of work that goes into that. So kudos to that team. And as well, I attended the Code of Conduct consultation process at the County of Kings just this past week, which was a very informative discussion. And I look forward to more of those along the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you. I attended the same meetings as the rest of council. On January 25th, I attended the Kemptville Water Commission, and as of December 31st, our operating revenue was at 85%, so about 1.6 million. Their expenditures were at 84.6%. And they did have a motor replacement in December on a well pump at the West End Well House. They were lucky because they found one in Province, which was great. On February 21st, I attended the capital budget review. On the 31st, I also attended the retirement party for former Director of Finance, Deborah Kroll. And again, as mentioned, CEO Phillips was there, former councillors. It was great, and I mean, she's definitely going to be missed, I know that. She was full of knowledge and a great teacher. In February, I had several conversations after the last meeting with citizens over the Encore development, or known as Ryan's Park deal. Many were unaware that this property was supposed to be completed within 2 years. And the town had sold it in 2018 with a completion with a 2-year completion date. So many people are wondering now about the timeline and purchase of sale agreement made with the town.
Councillor, please state your point.
Is this not a conflict of interest?
I don't own Encore, I'm just talking about.
I
Excuse me.
appreciate that. However, when we are discussing the purchase and sale agreements of other properties as it relates to buyback clauses, I believe it is a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor York. Your point is taken, and Councillor, you have declared a conflict of interest with regards to this, and
I don't own Encore, I have nothing to do with that property. I'm just telling you conversation from citizens.
Um,
Where, you show me in Robert or in the MJ where I'm in a conflict.
Excuse me, Counselor Zabian, you do not have the floor, and I'm going to ask you to wrap up your report.
Anyway,
and-
people are just, sorry, people are just wondering why, they're just confused with the timeline, and now we're into 5 years, and it's nowhere near move-in ready. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, I'm not finished yet. I also attended the Code of Conduct workshop, and it was very informative. Nice to hear from other units who made it clear that any breaches made by elected officials and sanctions should be notified to the public so that the public is aware of such issues which could impact their voting on elections. And those things should be dealt with in a public manner because we are elected officials. And the last thing I want to say is I'm glad there was awareness to taxpayer dollars tonight. So I'm hoping that people can appreciate now why I wanted the public to know about the $200,000 that was spent in 2020 to conceal allegations against the council of that day. Thank you, and my expenses for the year from April 2022, so almost a year now, were $469.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Counselor.
I'm gonna call a point of privilege on that last statement.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I have
and-
to, or a recess or something. I don't even know what to say. I don't know how to react to that. I don't.
But you didn't have a problem with the comments a few minutes ago.
Counselor, you're now out of order. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. His report is done. We'll move on. CAO, if you could provide council with an update on the operational matters discussed over the last 2 weeks at the CAC meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. So we had an opportunity, obviously, with council to walk through an overview of the capital budget. Council provided some comments and some things to go forward and look at. So staff have been looking at that and trying to quantify those items so we can bring that back in the completed capital budget for council's review. In tandem with that, obviously, the operational work is ongoing. As I mentioned to council, we're shooting for an April timeline for the operational budget. There's a number of pieces where we have some staff members who have not been involved in the budget process before, so we're giving them an opportunity not just to participate, but to also have a better understanding on the budgeting process itself. First aid training was going on here in the chambers for all of staff, so Braveheart was in. We had 3 groups go through, and I believe there's another group is going to be going through with Public Works shortly. Great training, great opportunity for folks, not just to get a refresher on the first aid training, but also on some of the new products and getting an opportunity to do hands-on with things like defibrillators and whatnot. So really excellent training. And with regards to IMSA, there is some working group activity going on with regards to the REN. There is a coming meeting this week, I believe it is, to just go through one more review before the intermunicipal service agreement documents go back to the LOC. And that's just a quick update for council.
All right, thank you, CAO. And now my report, same dates and times as everyone else. On 27th of January, I attended a Mentoring Plus event. It was an opportunity to meet the members and to hear what they could offer to the CBDC as far as a mentorship opportunity. The King's Mayors met on the 6th of February, and again, we discuss regional matters that are ongoing. The NSFM, I attended a code of conduct consultation online on the 14th of Feb, and on the 15th of Feb, the IMSA board met for our monthly report or board meeting, and as well, we had a preview of upcoming budgets. I attended Engage Nova Scotia's Winter Roadshow in Halifax, and the NSFM had a special board meeting detailing the way ahead after the January vote on our new bylaws. On the 16th of February, the Deputy Mayor, CAO, and I held an executive meeting with regards to reviewing the current red lines that we have in the G70 meeting policy prior to bringing it back to council. On the 21st of Feb, we had a special CAC with budget, and on the 22nd of Feb, NSFM Code of Conduct consultation, Kings County in person. Again, 31st of January, like everyone else, longtime director Deb Kroll's retirement in December of 2022, and her farewell celebration was held on the 31st of January. 2nd of Feb, attended lunch with the Liberal caucus, and municipal elected officials from Kings Enhance were invited to lunch, and it was led by MLA Keith Irving with attendees, leaders Zach Churchill and MLA Laura Lee Nichols. 9th of Feb was the African Heritage Celebration at Kings County. As usual, they did a wonderful, wonderful job, and it's always great to see folks come out for that. On the 14th of Feb, I had the pleasure of assisting KBC with the Fire and Ice Draw for 1,400 KBC bucks. People wrote their heart in downtown Kentville, and some of the comments were just absolutely wonderful, and so they were posting them online just so people could see what they were. And as far as conference attendance synopsis, I did attend the NSFM special meeting in Halifax on the 26th of January to approve the new bylaws. And on the 11th of Feb, attended the Lions Club Fire and Ice breakfast. And that is my report. All right, moving right along to new business. It's time for us to start looking at the 2023 conferences, and with both the NSFM and the FCM, and this is in accordance with our G21 policy to determine attendance by council members. So the NSFM Spring Conference will be held at the Digby Pines from May 3rd to May 5th. And there are no limitations on that. The FCM conference will be held in Toronto from May 25th to 29th, and attendance is typically limited to the mayor and 2 members of council. And the NSFM Fall Conference is normally held at the Halifax West Inn in November of 2023, and typically it is late November. So I would poll council members for their attendance, and just realizing that for both NSFM Spring and NSFM Fall, we still have quite a bit of wiggle room. So if your calendar changes, there's not a problem. So Councillor Gerard, FCM, NSFM Spring, NSFM Fall?
NSFM and NSFM.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Huntley?
FCM, NSFM Fall.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Maxwell?
Maybe NSFM Spring.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor?
NSFM in November, FCM this year. Not certain on spring
Okay,
NSFM.
thank you. Councillor York?
NSFM Spring, and I don't have my schedule, but I would anticipate NSFM November.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zabian?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So I'll put you down for a maybe?
Well, FCM would be no, so you can put no for that.
Okay, so maybe on both of the others?
Maybe on one of them, I really don't know right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm for all 3. All right, Councillor Zabian, you requested to have a discussion with regards to FCM, so I yield the floor to you.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. So I just have a question. It says here that FCM is typically limited to 2 members of council. So just for clarity, would that be 3? Would that be you and Councillor Huntley and then 2 others as well? Or does that mean you and Councillor Huntley and 1 person? 'Cause she's on one of those committees, so.
Councillor Zabian, that Councillor Huntley's attendance with regards to her work with the FCM is not what we're considering here.
No,
So
I know that. I
policy-
just-
yeah,
for
Policy
clarity.
G21
Right.
is that it's 2 members of council and me, and typically the CAO is also invited.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually 4 people from the town of Kentville who would be going to
Well, I'm
the
not, the
FCM.
CEO I'm not worried about, I'm just
Right.
wondering, the council, they're,
The councillor would
We-
be actually 3 members, so it's 2 councillors and the mayor.
but Councillor Huntley would be separate from that, so we'd be
No,
paying-
no, not necessarily.
Okay,
It-
but if 2 others wanted to go, there's potential for 4
That's
people,
correct.
right?
That's
what I'm
correct.
getting
Yes.
at. So I didn't prepare an RFD or anything, and I can do that for the next meeting if you'd like. I think, you know, in light of the times and where we are right now, I think sending 3 people is too much, 4 is way too much. I mean, each trip is gonna cost around $3,000 by the time you fly and lodge, and I think, and I've said this before for the last 2.5 years, spend the money in Kempville. And I know some of you maybe think that's not a lot of money, but $12,000 is a lot of money to me. And when I see people on the street who are out in the cold and I see them, and they're sleeping in the banks.
Councillor, are you talking about conference attendance or?
I'm talking about sending 4 people to Toronto, and to stay at a hotel for 4 days. That's what I'm talking about. I think, you know, there's gotta come a point when common sense has to prevail, and I think that's a lot of people to go. And I see you not liking what I'm saying, because you're smiling, but I'm just saying that I think we have to use a little bit of logic now, and I'm not, no disrespect to anybody, but look at the times of the people, and that money doesn't belong to us. If you wanna go on your own dime, get your credit card out, use your money.
Thank you,
I
Councillor
won't use
Zabian.
taxpayers' money to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Zabian, you have made that more than clear.
So can I, should I make an RFP for the next?
No,
meeting
please
for
don't bother.
discussion?
Please don't bother.
Making it-
Please don't bother, we have a policy.
But I wanna make a change to it.
Then
The
I would,
proper way, that's what I'm saying.
I would suggest that you speak to Jennifer West with regards to policy changes, and we'll ensure that you have the right documentation. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I'll speak to the conferences. FCM and NSFM, I've attended both. I've been going into my 7th year now on council. They hold them for a reason. There's excellent information that we can take back, that we can utilize in our respective towns and respective municipalities. They hold them for a reason. They're great information, they're a great way to network, they're a great way to get other ideas from other municipalities, and that is why they're held. It's something I think has been done for many, many years. I don't know how many, but I would assume quite a number. So that's why I'm putting my name forward to go to FCM this year, and I've usually attended the NSFM conferences, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I think that the councillor across the way was talking about the economic times that we're in right now. And that was the point of what he was saying. I have found NSFM to be very useful and a very good conference, especially the spring conference. The fall conferences that I have attended personally, I've found to be a waste of time. As far as FCM goes, I would throw the question out there to members of council and the mayor and CAO and anybody, how many people go from the Annapolis Valley to FCM on other councils? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you, Mayor Snow. Through the chair, and I'm sure there's value, I'm not disputing that, but I mean, to send 4 people, the mayor is more than capable of bringing information back, and Councillor Huntley's already on a committee, so I mean, she can bring it back too. Do we really need another body? And no disrespect to anybody, do we really need to pay 4 bodies or 3 bodies to bring back the same material? I know Mayor Snow's great for notes, and nobody keeps a better notebook than her. I mean, why do you need to spend all that money? So I mean, in my own, and I'll sign out now, in my last thing, if I ever attended that, I'd use my own credit card, because I'm not gonna go on the dime of the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zabian. So with regards to the dime of the taxpayer, I do want to say that the town and the MGA both have provisions for repayment of expenses directly related to attendance at these type of conferences. The other thing that I want to say is that each conference has many events that are occurring at the same time. So for one person to attend is almost impossible to attend all of the events. The other thing that we need to look at with regards to the FCM is the amount of money that we are seeing, not only in our town, but also in our area. So the $11 million that King's Transit now has access to comes directly with regards to the Rural Transit Solution Fund. And am I interrupting you? And FCM just announced today that there's going to be access to more funding for rural transit. So with Councillor Gerard's report and the fact that Kings Point to Point is looking for some money, there may be a way of applying for that grant. So it's very nice to be able to do a lot of this online. However, being there and actually talking with people and particularly talking with FCM staff, we get an opportunity to clearly express what our needs are and how we can fit into to those needs. And unless you have been to one of these conferences, measuring its value to the town is very, very difficult. So I thank you very much for your comments, and as soon as we have dates as far as the fall conference, we'll let you know, and when they start making the sign up for the spring conference again, we will advise. So we have no correspondence this evening, and we are now open for public comment, and citizens are invited to make comment to council on any matter currently before the council. Please state your name and address, and you will be provided with 3 minutes.
Dennis Keogh, 29 Alicia Boulevard. I think I told you before, I spent 11 years on council. Dave Corkum and I sat right there, and there was times Pearl needed somebody to settle the boxing match. But at the end of the day, it was about policy, not about people. We fought like cats and dogs when we sat in those seats, but we fought for the citizens of Kentville, not for ourselves. It's a good reminder. The point I want to make, but I'll start off with saying I've never in 11 years seen the citizens ejected from a public meeting. You have council chambers, the mayor's office is 15 feet away. I suspect we shouldn't be doing that. Don't do it again. You're on camera ejecting the citizens because somebody in council has a meltdown. What were you thinking? That's not how it goes, guys. You work for the citizens. You got a problem? It's not the citizens' problem. You've got a personal problem, deal with it. Don't kick the citizens out of the council chambers. Anyway, 1996, I got elected town council. First meeting, I was declared in conflict of interest because I was trying to purchase Kentville Electric and it hadn't at that point been sold. Unfortunately, I couldn't stop it. At no point were my legal fees picked up by the town. So my question to council tonight is, where would I go to find a policy that says if a member of council charges another member of council with a conflict of interest, that the town and the citizens pick up his legal fees for that? Now, I will follow that up with a freedom of information request, but you better have a policy. Otherwise, I suspect an invoice to this individual over here for whatever amount you spent to defend him. That's not your mandate. You don't have the authority to spend that kind of money unless you have a policy. And I suspect you don't have a policy. But I will follow it up with a freedom of information request. And if you don't have that policy, then I'm going to keep coming here every week and saying, has he been invoiced? And anyone else who's charged, you could all charge one another with conflict of interest. Great, you're all married to lawyers. Woo, we're having a field day. Do you understand the stupidity of some of the things you try to do here?
Thank you. All right, the council has matters concerning legal and code of conduct, which must be conducted in a closed session. We require a motion to go into a closed session to discuss the agenda items. We will not be returning to Facebook Live for the completion of the meeting or adjournment. So move into a closed session to discuss the agenda items. Thank you. Councillor Gerard for the second. Councillor Zabian?
Sure.
Oh, it wasn't your voice?
No.
Sorry. Are you good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
It has been moved and seconded that council move into a closed session. The question is on adoption of the motion to move into the closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried, and the time is 7:47.